What's up, you guys? BATJAC J.W. coming to you, the debate to end all debates. I tell you, this is a lot of it's old news. I guarantee you it's old news. But guess what? I haven't done it on the channel. And we're going to go ahead and the 1911 versus the Glock. Okay, but of course there's going to be several thousand things I'm not going to cover in the video. Going to get and set some rules from my video. The caliber is irrelevant. We're not going to talk about the caliber 45 versus 9 or 40 or whatever, because pretty much both these guns come in all the calibers. The 1911 is chambered in just about everything under the sun, and you know, kind of so is the Glock. I'm a fan of both. I'll get that out right now. So there's not going to be a 1-1 for this one anyway, and we're going to just go ahead and talk about some basic things, and definitely, hey, in the comments, there you go, giving you guys free range. Go ahead and argue back and forth about what's what. So anyway, let's get started. We got these things both with the slides open and the breeches open, so we can visually see that we got no ammo. All right, so let's start with the 1911 because it was the first. All right, the 1911. All right, we got all steel construction gun on this case. This is a Colt government model. So this is more or less like a plain Jane, what they call a GI model. It does not have the greatest sights, but it does have better sights than what they had in the war days. So it's got beautiful rosewood grips that are replaceable. You can, of course, the 1911, the Barbie doll of its pistol, basically. I mean, it's got everything. You can replace just about everything on this gun. Trigger, magazine, release, slide stop, slide release, you can, whatever you want to call it. You can replace these out. You can get all kinds of them extended and all the whatnot. Thumb safety, you can get them, you know, a lot larger than this. You can get them smaller than this. You can get them ambidextrous, so they can go on that side. Hey, I'm a lefty. I really like that, but this Colt doesn't have it. They even make ones now with rails on the bottom. I'll go ahead and show you that. And then the serrations, they go ahead and change up those. These are the traditional vertical serrations. Some of them are spaced and angled and whatnot. And go ahead and show you an example of some of those just a bit in this video. There's been a lot of modifications on this gun. There's you got a lot of gunsmiths, big time names, spending a lot of money, man hours, and time, and all that stuff, creating some of these guns that cost some pretty big dollars, talking about $5 grand and more in some cases. So, and I actually heard that, you know, somebody say, you know, well, how much money do you have to spend to get an accurate 1911? Actually, here's the thing. The platform has been pretty much proven for over 100 years. And it's, you know, it's pretty much, I've shot cheaper 1911s. I have a friend of mine that has a $350 1911. And that thing is just as accurate as it can possibly be. I mean, you know, it bangs steel. It's combat effective. Everything. We haven't had a hiccup with it. And we blasted. This is my Colt, and I blasted this a lot. And actually, I have a video on it shooting at the range. We put some pretty heavy lead through it, and a lot of rounds, a lot of mileage, and you know, heck, I mean, able to pretty much bang the steel without any problems. So you know, it's a really good gun. It's one of my favorite guns as far as, you know, 1911 go. I really like this one. It's really cool. So to give you a kind of a look at some of the updated features on them. Here I got, this is my Kimber, and now we're talking a little bit dollars, right? I think this thing has an MSRP pricing about $1,500 or $1,600, something like that. Now you can see they got the rail going on there. They got the serrations going front and, you know, and rear, and they're kind of spaced and angled, which really looks cool. And of course the color, but that's irrelevant. But this one, you got, you know, you still got the same standard slide stop and everything. You got the extended and ambidextrous thumb releases and everything. So, and you got an extended and high ride beaver tail with the bump out and what they call the memory groove and everything. This one's a flat checkered mainspring housing and everything. So, and it's got the commander style hammer and definitely a lot better sights. These are Mepper lights, I believe, and they are glow in the dark. and they're nice, and I actually like this style of sight. I know a friend of mine that doesn't, but I like it. And this pistol just shoots really nice, amazing. It's got kind of a mid-sized trigger. It's not long, it's not short, but it's right in the middle, and it's kind of a happy medium, really, you know. And I put the Magpul grips on it. These are the MOE Magpul grips, which I like. They're a lot thinner, and that's the whole point of a 1911. You know, it is a single stack magazine, so you are limited on the rounds. I think this holds it. This is a Wilson Combat, 8 rounds, and then +1, so you get 9 for your efforts. But you know, the thinness, you know, the original stock grips on it were just a little bit thicker, which it wasn't too bad, but you know, I went ahead and put the Magpul grips on there to keep that thin streamlined kind of a feel to it and everything. You know, of course it is a little heavier because of the rail and everything. So yeah, magazines, let's go ahead and talk about magazines. I actually got the original Colt magazine that this one comes in, and this is your usual standard magazine. You know, just the GI, you know, what I call the tinny magazines. That I'm not actually a really big fan of these at all. You know, that's the thing about these. They mostly of them, they're going to cost you $13 on up to $20, 25, or you can just get the Wilson Combats, which I really like, and they're a little expensive, but they work. Now, in versus to the Glock mag, the Glock magazines are probably the finest magazines I've ever really felt. I really like them. I'm a big fan of them. This state, I'm restricted to 10 rounds, and I wanted to talk about that. A lot of things go back and forth about capacity. Well, I live in a state where I can only have 10 rounds, so that limits me down to 10 and 1 in this gun, you know, in any Glock or any handgun. So I got 9 in this and 11 in this, you know, 10 in here and 1 in the chamber, so I got 11 rounds. And of course, if I'm running the Wilson Combat, I got 8 in the mag and 1 in the chamber, making 9. So now, Glock, to give the Glock its turn, we've chatted enough about the 1911. The Glock has featured a lot of things now. You can get, you know, different slide releases here, or slide stops. I think that's what they call it, slide stop. They teach the, I think actually in Samaritan, Georgia, they teach the over-the-top method to re-battery your round instead of using the slide stop. That's what they call it. They actually don't want you to, but whatever. Anyway, it does have the rail and everything, and you know, this one has this is a Gen 4, so it does have the reversible magazine release, which I liked because I'm a lefty. I like that. And this is the Glock 23. I chose that mid-size, and you know, I chose the 23 because you can do the barrel swap and all that. But anyway, we're not talking about the caliber. Get back on topic. I like the fact you can switch that magazine release around. Now, arguably, you can say the Glock is pretty plain, and you know, that's kind of the beauty of it too. You know, you got nothing really sticking out that's gonna catch on anything. You know, it's pretty. You know, not too much gadgets all over it. You know, you got your basic stuff that you need. Even your takedown switches are kind of, you know, they countersunk them in there almost. Well, I mean, they kind of, you know, put a bevel out in there, so they kind of seat down in there. And there's a nice thumb divot and everything for you to catch onto it. Now, Glock accessories, there's a lot of accessories too for Glocks. You can get, you know, different sights. You can get the laser guide rod, but you know, that can go for pretty much even the 1911 if you wanted to. Glock started to add in all these extra back straps and whatnot, and you get a little magazine loader. So let's go ahead and start talking about the actual pistol construction here. Go ahead and undo the 911 here, and as you can see, it does take a little bit more effort to take it down, so that's a comparison right there. So okay, so now that let's move this frame aside. Alright, so now we got both the slides off. Let's go ahead and start with the Glock. And of course the Glock is just so simple. Take out the guide rod and recoil assembly, and it's all housed together, and barrels out, and you're done as far as the field strip on a slide. 1911 is just slightly different. Okay, you gotta take out the your mainspring here, and it's got this one's got the traditional short guide rod, and then you got the barrel bushing to deal with. So you turn that to the other side where it stops, move that out, and your barrel comes straight out the front instead of lifting out through the frame. Okay, so barrels, talk about the barrels. The stock Glock barrel, you can only shoot full metal jacket stuff. You cannot shoot hard cast bullets because of the type of rifling they use. Okay, it's not traditional rifling like the 911 here. So, and then you got an extra barrel linkage system here, so you got a pin with an extra link, you know, and then the Glock, of course, obviously you got nothing. It's all one piece, so you don't have any other extra moving parts. Now this is a Series 80 system, and if you notice, there's something similar about both. And if give you a second here, look at it. What do you see? Well, you got the firing pin stop on the Glock, and you also have it on this Series 80 Type 1911. So they both feature that system. All right, as far as weight, you know, they're both steel, and you know, I'm not going to get down to scientific you know, arguments on that. They're both steel, so let's just agree on that. Agree to disagree, or agree to agree. All right, barrels, steel. Okay, you do have that extra part, and you do have, you know, this, and if you really want to split hairs, this can come apart and everything. So this is the dual captured one, all one piece, one housing, everything like that. So here's where the Glock really shines. This thing weighs next to nothing. This is polymer, and you know, some people bash it. I know some people that are just, you know, they just don't like polymer guns. They don't like Glocks. They call us everything under the sun, Tupperware gun, whatnot. But this is great. I love it. This is super lightweight, and all the contact areas that it's going to be wearing on is all metal. You know, that's the other misconception when these things first came out, thinking about this thing can go through a metal detector. There's lots of metal on it. You know, I think in Die Hard 2, Bruce Willis says it's a porcelain gun. Really? Anyway, we're not even going to get into that one. All right, so, and then as far as the takedown and everything like this, you can take this thing down with a push pin, and there's very little parts you need to work with and deal with. No fitting really to be required to get these parts in. You can change out all kinds of parts. You know, you can get a bunch of us guys together and gals that we all have the same, you know, 23 or whatnot, and pretty much swap parts back and forth and without any issues really. The 1911, you know, it's a steel frame, so it's got a lot of weight to it. Definitely picking this up compared to this. Whoa. All right, so you got some weight. Of course, they make 1911s now in aluminum frames and all whatnot, and lighter weight stuff. So, you know, give it its defense there. But to take out all these parts and everything, you know, you don't really need any tools. You know, I mean, again, you just need to drive that pin out when it comes to that part. But for the most part, you don't need too many tools. You can actually essentially take this gun down with its own parts. I'll do a video on that another time, but you know, it's got a lot more weight to it, and you cannot swap parts back and forth generally. You generally need to be fitting some parts together here. They just need to go that way. But for the most part, you can actually get away with fitting some parts back together without needing to file anything. But so anyway, some people would say, hey, you know, this is a all steel, you know, constructed to last. So anyway, all right. This thing, you know, obviously the plastic, the polymer, is not going to rust. This, you're going to have to take care of it. It will rust on you if you neglect it, and, you know, salty fingers, you know, from eating potato chips or whatever. So, at least the Glock, I don't have to worry about that, whatnot. So let's go ahead and get this stuff back together. So the other thing I want to talk about is the Kaboom. I've seen a lot of, you know, of course you read a lot of things. Glocks blowing up, you know, frame destroyed, people getting hurt, maybe. You've seen all these things, barrels sheared in half and whatnot. Same goes for the 1911. I've seen on both sides, I've seen damage. A gun is a gun, and if, you know, I mean, it goes kaboom, it goes kaboom, you know, unless it's a, you know, a Ruger revolver or something. Usually you don't see those too much going kaboom because Ruger just builds them like tanks. But anyway, not to drag this out too far, but you know, you got kind of things on both ends here. Like I said, again, I am a fan of both. I definitely, you know, as far as carry purposes and, you know, ease of everything, this is a lot lighter, you know, and you're a lot more prone to carry something that's more comfortable and, you know, not so much of a drag to, you know, throw it all together and whatnot. You know, there's also that factor of people saying, you know, especially in the States where, you know, they allow the standard capacity, which is like 17 rounds and whatnot, and 14 rounds. You know, they say, well, as you start to fire those rounds, the grip is going to get lighter and lighter and lighter, causing the gun to have a, you know, more violent recoil or whatnot, etc., etc., etc. So anyway, you know, I think a lot of people, you can see them, they're really good with this and they're able to bang steel without any problem. Jerry Michalak definitely does not have a problem with that, emptying a magazine in literally seconds and pretty much staying on target. So anyway, yeah, the sights back again. The Glock stock sights are definitely nothing to write home about, but they do work. I've always liked them, so I usually keep them on mine. And you know, so again, there in comparison to this, it's, you know, kind of the same, you know, in a way. So you'd have replaceable grips, you know, of course, with the 1911s grips and mainspring housings and even the grip safeties and everything like that. But, you know, they made the back straps, and, you know, on this one that is replaceable, so you can add thickness to it. But I like the stock, you know, with the Gen 4. It's a little thinner than the Gen 3s, and I like it. You know, it fits really good, and I like the stippling on it. So, okay, so now coming to the most, I guess, talked about thing and the most obvious is how the trigger and basically if you need to use it and fire it. Okay, the Glock, far as external safety, doesn't really have one. It does have the trigger safety, so that, you know, unless you directly pull it right in, you know, you'd literally have to get your finger all the way in there and pull it. If it catches something on the edge, that little trigger stop is not going to allow it to be fired. So that's kind of, you could look at that as the safety, the only external safety. But other than that, the safety in this gun is known as a safe action pistol. It's just the way it's designed. Okay, so if you need to use it, you pull it and use it. That's your, you know, your safety is, don't put your finger in there. So 1911, of course, you chamber it and you put it on safety, known as the cocked hammerback and locked thumb safety engaged. Okay, so it does have, the 1911 does have two safeties. In fact, depends if you have the series 80. I guess you could call that lockup, the firing pin block, another safety, but the Glock also has that. So this one, as far as external safeties, you got your thumb safety and your grip safety. So even if your thumb safety were to fail or not be engaged, if you don't have a proper grip on it or this depressed, the trigger won't work. See, I'm pushing on it, nothing until you have that depressed, then bang. Okay, so the way this gun's carried, round in the chamber, safety on. If you need to use it, pull it, thumb safety off, bang. Okay, and you have that same nice crisp single action trigger. You can see it right here. Hopefully I can make it look good for you in the video here. You can see the travel, boom, it just right there and it's going. Okay, the Glock, because it's safe action, just, you know, it's got a longer trigger. Some people say it's a mushy trigger, and then breaks and you can see the travel a little bit. Trigger reset, it's pretty much right there. It's not too bad, but you know, that's just inherent on most all polymer guns. So so I have it set, and check out the trigger reset right there. So it's definitely that, you know, it shines in that department for sure. Does it kind of outbeat the Glock? Yes, it does. But can you become accurate with the Glock? Oh, heck yes. I have. And if I can do it, you can do it. But anyway, not to make the video too long, I'm BATJAC J.W. signing off for now. I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, you know, go ahead and you can start your arguments in the comments. Be nice to each other. All right, I'm signing off. BATJAC J.W. Take care of yourselves.